All right, family. Okay, you said, Joseph, I want to know what do I need to do for me to buy my first house. There are three things that I would tell you to focus on if you're trying to get your first property, your first house. Whether it be the house that you're going to be living in for the next few years, or maybe your first house, then you have hopes that, you'll get out of that one to go to the next one and rent that one out. Whatever you choose to do. But if you're trying to acquire your first property, there are three things that we got to focus on, all right? The first thing that we need to focus on is you got to make sure your credit is where it needs to be. We would want your credit to be somewhere between like 640, I would say maybe around 640 to 700s, all right? If you could get it somewhere around that, at least that puts you in a ballpark for you to be able to get a loan that's going to make some type of sense, all right? If it's your first property. You're going to have a lot of problems trying to get a loan if you're under 640, or if, as a matter of fact, if you're under 600. A lot of people, sometimes, people don't have their credit where it needs to be. They have all type of student loan, all type of debt, but yet they want to buy a house. And then they hitting that roadblock because they can't get to it because their credit is not where it needs to be. So we want to make sure that credit is at least between 640 to 720. You could go on Credit Karma and try to check it out. It's not going to give you something that's 100% accurate, but it's going to give you a ballpark number of where your credit is. The second thing that you would have to focus on is basically your income. Your income is going to be very critical because your income is going to be what qualifies you, right? The bank is not going to want to give somebody a loan for a house that costs $200,000 or that costs $300,000 or that costs $150,000 if you're not going to be able to pay for it. So one of the ways that they make sure that you're able to pay for it is by your income. They look at how much money you've made possibly in the past 2 years, in the past 3 years, see if you got a track record. How long have you been in how long have you been at your place of employment, right? They look at all of that stuff and then they decide, okay, well, you know what? This person don't look like somebody that's going to lose their job or somebody that's going, that's going to quit their job because they have a history of being at that place. They have a history of working, so we can trust them to be able to stay there and handle their responsibility. It's the same thing why they want to look at your credit. If your credit is really messed up, if your credit is really bad, then obviously they saying to themselves, okay, well, you know what? I don't know if we can trust that person because they haven't. I'm looking at different debts that they had before. They never really paid them. So if we give them this loan, they're gonna have a problem paying it too. They're not gonna be faithful over the thing that that they done sign up for or sign up a contract for. And last but not least, the third thing is basically you gotta come up with that down payment. And that's where a lot of people stumble when it comes to the down payment that they need for a house, right? Now, the good thing about it, if you're buying your first property, there are a lot of incentives out there for you to be able to come with as little on the table as possible. But you probably still gonna need at least a good 3.5% of down payment. You might not have to go all the way up to 20%, but you will have to come up with at least 3.5% or 5% of a down payment. So let's just say if my house costs $100,000, the house that I'm getting ready to buy, then I want to make sure that I come up with at least 5%. What is 5%? 5% of 100,000 is 5,000, right? So or maybe even 3.5%, which is about 3,500. That's just for your down payment alone, but you're gonna have closing costs that is associated with you getting that property. That's good, that could run you somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000. That's why it's very important for you to save some money to the side for you to be able to make that move. Yes, it's worth it to make that move, but there are some preparation that we have to do, and it's actually a big stumbling block for a lot of people, a big obstacle why you see a lot of people are renting. But yet they make a certain level of income, but yet they can't get into a house because it costs so much more to get into the house compared to you getting into an apartment. For an apartment, they might ask you, okay, well, you know what, you need first and last and deposit, right? So let's just say if they rent an apartment for $1,000, then they might tell you, okay, well, you need $3,000. Well, that's a lot easier for me to gather $3,000 than for me to come up with $10,000. So that's why it's a stumbling block for a lot of people when they try to get a house. And then instead of getting a house, they have to rent because they can't come up with the saving money that they need for them to put towards down payment. But if that's something that you're thinking about, man, I'm telling you, it's a good idea. Obviously, you want to take a look at the numbers. You want to make sure you're in a situation where you can afford what you're getting into. But if you feel like, okay, well, Joseph, my credit is lined up. Joseph, my income is where it needs to be. Joseph, my down payment is already here. So then the next thing for you to do now is for you to go to a bank and try to see if you can get pre-qualified for that, for whatever mortgage you're trying to get, right? For whatever loan you're trying to get. Let's just say if I'm trying to get a loan for about $200,000, maybe the house in my neighborhood, the houses that I'm looking at is going to cost me about $200,000. Then I want to go to a bank and see, okay, well, can I be, okay, well, everything that you checking my credit, with you looking at my history, my employment history, with you looking at my the down payment that I have in my bank, am I able to get into what kind of loan am I qualified for? Can I get a $200,000 loan? Can I get a $300,000 loan? And they will be able to give you that information when you go down to the bank. So, but don't waste your time if you don't get those things in order, and make sure they're where they needs to be. Okay. And like I said, man, I wish you the best of blessings concerning you trying to get your first property or your second or your third property. Obviously, I believe in real estate investments. I believe in real estate as a means by which, you know, we can gain wealth and go towards, you know, that financial freedom that a lot of people are looking for. Now, remember, if this information is helpful to you, help me out by making sure that you liking it. Help me out by making sure that you subscribe if you have not subscribed yet, so you can look forward to the different videos that I'm going to be bringing forth in the next few days, in the next few weeks. All right. Once again, it was a pleasure talking to you. It was a pleasure having you here. God bless you.